We were born to champion the dreamers and stand with the underdogs. Because you can only succeed if you're given the opportunity to try.
Are you crying?
Yeah, no, maybe.
Hey guys, welcome to Uncut Hawaii. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kolby, and this is the podcast where we interview Hawaii's most interesting and innovative entrepreneurs, creators, and change makers. Today we have a new episode.
We are talking story with an old friend, Flash Hansen. You've probably seen him around.
Or heard him on the radio.
Or heard him on the radio. Former promotions and marketing director at the Wave Waikiki, an iconic nightclub back then. I'm not even old enough to know what that was, but we talked about that. He was also the marketing promotions director at BAMP and Republic, which is where I met him. And then currently he is the director of promotions and marketing at iHeart Radio Honolulu, and also has a branding and design PR company, Mod Media. So it was great to talk story, go beyond surface level, and just kind of like talk about his past.
This episode took me back to my college, in the early 2000s. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember that club. And it was just a different scene, the night scene back then. And he was really a big part of making all that happen. Super interesting to get that insider perspective on that nightlife scene.
Yeah, and it's so cool because then we talk about when it first started to, the time that he was in it, and then now how it's kind of evolved into a different thing with social media and your phone and everything. So really good episode. Tune in and let us know what you think.
Yeah, enjoy.
All right, guys, today we have Flash Hansen with us today. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Oh. Really? Already?
No, it's so crazy because it's I've known you for so long, and I see you out, and we used to do all these shows and stuff together, and
does Kolby know the story of
No, tell me the story of how you met.
I don't remember how we met, but it was through, was it?
It was Dot in
was it Steve Aoki? The one at the Blaisdell, I think, that winter white shore or whatever, a long time ago. Because that's when I started coming out too, I think, with Dot and everyone.
Okay, yeah.
And Andrew was 18 years old.
No, I was old enough to drink. No, but it's just I think when Redefined Media first started, we were doing a lot of recaps and social media videos. And so
I remember.
He was part of bringing all the shows and stuff here. Yep. So it was
I think I saw some of your stuff on Instagram, and then it turned out that Dot knew you guys.
Yeah.
So at the time I was the marketing director for BAMP. And so we brought them on, paid them literally $0. Be like, hey, you can come to all the shows for free. Yeah. You get to be in the media pit, and it's you're
good
right
exposure
next to the artist. Yeah, great exposure for your brand. Cool. Yada yada yada. But they actually were one of the few people that I actually gave opportunities like that to, that actually did take the ball and run with it, and learned how to take those really, really excellent recap videos and I would assume show it that's your resume to go to, other businesses. And it's when you're filming a Steve Aoki or whoever.
Yep.
But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I could give anyone that opportunity, but you have to.
No, but we're so appreciative.
And Redefined was just Andrew and Evan.
Yes.
That was it.
Yeah.
We are so appreciative, and that's why I value our relationship, Flash, and we don't really see each other out as much as often, but when we do, it's always because I just saw him recently at a show too, and I was yeah, so it's bringing it back to the old days.
But I see your team everywhere.
Yes.
Like I said, any event that I MC, it's the kids running around with cameras are always Redefined
Well,
media.
that's the next generation.
Yeah. But Andrew and Evan are too good for that.
No.
The OGs.
No way.
They're the bosses now.
No way.
No, you're busy running your video empire.
No way, trying. So tell us about, so marketing director at BAMP, but before that, I know, tell us about your story, how you came into this industry.
Let's take it all the way back, Flash.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was born. No. So I grew up here, so that helps when you have a local network of just your whole life growing up in a place when it comes to marketing and promotions. I opened a nightclub when I was 24 years old with a couple friends.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
What club was that?
It's called 1739, and it was at 1739 Kalakaua Avenue, which coincidentally was right across the street from Apartment 3.
Oh, okay.
Which we wouldn't know it at that time. But Yeah, I had 1739 for a couple of years. We were young kids. We didn't know what we were doing, but we understood nightlife from the ground up. We didn't understand it from the top down. Running a business, as I'm sure you know, right? Like, you know, running around shooting videos and editing stuff is different than like now we have to like pay taxes and then like what's an LLC and, you know, oh no, employees. And so it was just, we didn't know what we were doing, but we had so much fun.
And you learned a lot.
We learned a lot. Yeah. My dad called that money my college education.
Yeah.
And then
Very hands-on college education.
yeah.
It's a tuition. You're paying tuition.
I always say it was very successful in every way except making money. And again, we were young. We knew how to throw good parties, and we didn't know how to monetize things. I didn't even know like the word monetize back then. And then when the club closed, we went to the Wave, which was like the Studio 54 of Hawaii, and we knew we had like this roster of bands and of DJs and of staff, and we just had this collective, this sort of hui of really cool people in a community and a culture that wasn't being represented in nightlife at the time. And this is definitely, I'm going to date myself, but 1739 was so old. We were the first nightclub in Hawaii to play hip hop 7 days a week.
Wow.
In fact, back then, and it was 100% racist, like to even have a nightclub do a one-off of hip hop or a weekly hip hop event was, people were afraid of it. You know, they didn't want, you know, a dark crowd coming into their club in whatever element that was. And, you know, as that was older people looking down at us and younger people growing up. And this is the late 90s, you know, the golden era of hip hop. We're like, this is like the best music on planet Earth. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And everybody loves this across the board in our generation. Right. So we went to the Wave, and I started doing a Tuesday night party called the Pussycat Lounge. And very quickly we took their slowest night that they've never had any success on, made it their busiest weeknight, which then I didn't parlay that. The owner of the nightclub, the Wave, Jack Law, parlayed my Tuesday nights into offering me a full-time job as their marketing director and their promotions director. I didn't even know what that meant. And I had no interest in throwing parties, even though, you know, we were throwing this Tuesday night party that was very, very successful. $5 cover back in those days. And it really just took off from there. And then with Jack, who was, you know, the Wave, and then he still owns Hula's Bar and Lay Stand. You know, at the time, the two longest running nightclubs in Hawaii, he really knew what he was doing. And again, we were young kids. We were like, oh, it'd be so cool to own a nightclub. And, you know, it's just like that typical thing that anyone that's young, and it's like, you know, I was a bartender. It's like, oh, well, if I was running a club, you know, I would have the bar be like this or whatever. Whereas Jack was like, I'm a businessman. This is a business. Like, I am treating this super fun. Yes, it is a super fun business with entertainment and a bunch of cool elements to it, but it still is a business. And like, I've got to meet payroll, and I've got to like, you know, pay the lease every month and deal with like just all the adult stuff that we had no interest in and didn't understand anyway. To go from where I was to working with Jack, and overnight seeing how he was treating this like a real business. And it's like, you know, we have an art department, and we have a video department, and we have a marketing department, and it was just like, oh my God, this is like an accounting department.
Some good information to know before starting your own club.
But, you know, and again, dating myself, I mean, you couldn't even really look stuff up on the internet back then. And just the way my attitude has always been was like, screw it. Like, we'll just do the thing, and then we'll sort of build the plane as we go, right? As we fly it. And that sort of ethos has always served me very well. But then throwing parties at the Wave, I was still able to keep Tuesday's Pussycat Lounge as an independent promoter. Oh, nice. I was smart enough to negotiate that, and then still be getting my full-time check as the marketing and promotions director for Wave Waikiki. I was able to do both of those things. I did that for 8 years. Somewhere along the way, my buddy Tim Hazelgrove, who owns Oahu Golf Apparel now, has a little brother who I've never met, and he says, hey, my little brother's coming out for the summer. And everybody, all my friends knew that I would just have all these little kids working for me for $7 an hour. doing just anything. Paint, we always show paint the walls of the club black, or like, hang posters in the club and then pull the staples out of the wall from the posters you're taking down, and like literally go flyer the streets of Waikiki, or, whatever. Just whatever, the little minions or the grommets that, you would have doing the stuff. So I was constantly hiring, and I hired Matty Boy sight unseen.
Wow.
Because he was my friend's little brother, and I'll just take bodies. Like you don't need to have any skills whatsoever to like paint a wall black, right?
Right.
But that was early 2000s, I think. And Matty Boy was like 21, didn't speak a word. He started out not even as my assistant. He just started out as one of the many minions working for me at the Wave, doing, again, street team, whatever, anything and everything. This is pre-social media, so if you wanted to get the word out for something, you literally had to go, poster, telephone poles, and sling flyers,
campus,
and all the we were sending out mailers, every month, mailers to tens of thousands of people every month.
That's crazy.
This was even at the beginning of like stamp operations. So you would have to like, when we went from stamping everything by hand to getting a machine that could you would still have to manually insert it. But the technology back then was just so different.
Yep.
So you needed physical manual labor for stuff. So Matty Boy comes in, doesn't say a word, but he was just an interesting kid. And he asked a lot of very interesting questions that no one had ever asked me before. And by all means, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew a little bit more at that point than I did when I had opened a nightclub. And Matty Boy just kept asking me all these questions, really good, thoughtful questions, like, well, why? Like, why do it that way? Like, why do you guys wear headphones? Like, how come the mics are this way? Like, why are you using this machine? Why don't you use that machine? Why is the light there? Like, just every... he was able to just pick something up and look at it and ask questions that no one had ever asked me before. And quite frankly, many times I'd never even asked myself, right? It's like, I don't know, this is how Jack told me to do it.
Right.
Or this is how the Wave has always done it, or whatever. I had worked with enough people to know that like this kid had something. So ironically, at the time, Tim from now Oahu Golf Apparel was also throwing parties around town. He was an old school promoter, but back then, every promoter had a lane and a specialty. His was like doing crazy after hours stuff. And this was the 90s. The ecstasy was fantastic. Different times. Pure MDMA. Let's leave it at that. Glorious days. I miss those days. But he was known for doing these after hours events, and Matty kept hounding his brother to do parties with him, and his brother, like a true dick, kept saying no. And I think Matty finally got up the courage to ask me, and I was like, yeah, like let's do it. And he had like already, again, just right out of the gate, had a specific idea for a party idea he wanted to do. His brother turned him down many times. And in 10 minutes, told me this idea that he wanted to do and why he wanted to do it. And he had a clear vision of this thing. And this kid had never thrown a party before. He was like from the South, like still had that twang accent. Like it was just so incredibly shy. But he was like, again, this kid just had something right out of the gate. So we did this party called Glitter and Glamour, and we started it as a monthly on Pussycat Lounge on a night I was already had been successful. So I knew the event was going to do well. It was just a theme night within my weekly event. And sure enough, it went really well. And we were doing them every month. And these parties just kept getting bigger and better and bigger and better. And working with Matty Boy, who at this point was my full-time assistant, I got to a point when we were doing these parties, and I just said, "Hey, like you're not going to be my assistant anymore." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm just like, "We're partners. Like I can't. We're already partners on this one event, but then the rest of the week, like you're my assistant. It's just weird. Like let's just be partners, and like let's just do this more often." And it just grew from there to the point of then at some point I had to stop. I was like, I can't do the Wave anymore because I'm got too much going on with my own stuff with Matty. And then once I quit the Wave and we were able to just focus on doing events, that's when we started throwing events statewide, and we would have weeklies on different islands and like sending our staff out and doing all this crazy stuff. At some point, Matty Boy starts BAMP, and then Matty Boy and I ended up opening a restaurant together called Aparm3nt, which was at Century Center, which was directly across from 1739. Yeah. And then...
So all of this stuff, we were kind of trailblazing. Like there was no like set
I think
path.
trailblazing is pretty strong word.
I mean, but like as far as like getting corporate sponsorships and all that stuff, like nobody had ever done it like the way you guys were doing it.
I don't know. I mean, we weren't paying attention too much to what other people were doing. I mean, to be totally honest, like as two Howley guys in Hawaii throwing parties, we had an entire lane all to ourselves. So we didn't need to know or worry about what Rick Rock was doing or what Blaze was doing or Ray Sauce was doing or Element Group. And, the only other Howley kid in the mix was G-Spot, and he was throwing raves, and we didn't want anything to do with that. That wasn't the type of events we were looking at. So we had this whole lane to ourselves, whereas a lot of the Asian guys had to compete against each other and sort of figure out how to navigate that and create their own space within that. Like Rick Rock was like the Filipino party guy, and Blaze was like the Japanese party guy. And people outside of Hawaii listening to this probably like, what the hell are they even talking about? But
so did it change in like the genre of music? So yours was hip hop primarily?
No, we just did stuff that we liked. And I think that's what every successful promoter, certainly back then, was like, you don't overthink it. And everybody's a lot more savvy now. And again, these are early days of the internet. There's no social media. So I think everyone just did stuff that they liked. Blaze loves hip hop. That guy's a hip hop head to the day he dies. So he wants to throw hip hop events or hip hop concerts or whatever. Maddie and I were just putting together, wouldn't it be cool? Like, we would reverse engineer everything of like, if I go out, what do I want to see? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? What kind of experience do I want to have? How do I want to dress when I go there? So we would just reverse engineer stuff from what we both thought was cool. And we learned pretty quickly that if Matty Boy liked my idea or if I liked Matty Boy's idea, then that's all we needed. You know, if the both of us agreed, then we were good to go. Like the only barometer of what was good or bad was each other. And then you just sort of hope that other people also like what you like.
Nice.
I think if you go and you try to throw parties or do events or just even have any kind of business where you're thinking about like the end goal of like how many cans of Monster can I sell and like how much money can we make, especially for throwing parties, that's never going to work because you have to do it because you love it and because it's fun and you want to have fun because everyone coming to a party, just like if you're hosting a party at your house, they're going to feed off of that energy. So there was no like master plan of anything other than wouldn't this be cool? Or I wish we could see this, you know, and it's once we start really got going, you go to the mainland, you'd be like, how come Hawaii doesn't have bottle service? You know, so we were the first ones to incorporate bottle service in Hawaii. In fact, the price and even the number of people with bottle service today is based on what Maddie and I started back at Skyline. But we were like, you go to Vegas crazy, and there's bottle service everywhere and everyone from Hawaii goes there and spends all this money on bottle service, but no one is doing that here. Like, why not? That doesn't even make sense. Like, I would like to, you know, buy a bottle somewhere. Like, how come everyone is wearing like, you know, shout out to Alika, rubber slippers and $5 pitchers. Like, I want to dress up when I go out. And if I want to go out and meet a girl, like I want to look good. How come no one's doing events where like people are in suits and ties? So we started doing that and being stricter with our dress code. And like, it was all just based off of stuff that we saw happening, popping off in particular on the West Coast, but, you know, also stuff that when we were going and traveling or, you know, looking at anything that we were looking at, it's like, man, how come we don't have that here? And so we just did that. And then it's like, if it made money, great. If not, we were like, that was a cool party and we had fun. And, you know, especially when you get to the point where you can afford to lose a little money, like we would throw parties knowing we weren't going to make money, but we were like, this is going to be really fucking cool. Like this is going to be so much fun. And the people that are going to come are going to have the time of their lives. And to this day, it's like this running, I mean, Maddie and I have so many running jokes, but, and we do still talk, you know, very often and work together and all that good stuff. But, you know, one of our favorite parties of all time, we didn't make any money. we lost a bunch of money. We lost thousands of dollars. I think maybe 100 people showed up. It was a party in Chinatown at next door, and it was called Disco Sluts from Outer Space. And number one, we were
very
like,
specific theme.
we were like, this is the coolest name for a party ever. And our whole staff was dressed up super fun. Keisha Aquino, who you should definitely have on your show, doing the hair and makeup for everyone, and she has over a period of several years for us. Even to this day, Keisha does hair and makeup for me for events. Keisha Aquino, yeah. And she used to be our head dancer too, by the way. She dolled everybody up, and we just had the most fun ever. Yeah. And like, of all the events we've done, and we've done parties where we made tons of money and whatever, we're like, that's a party that we always think about, both of us, individually. If you interviewed Maddie completely separate from me, he would say the same thing. And that's what it's all about, is like, it doesn't matter whether we made money or lost money. What mattered is we had so much fun. Our friends had so much fun. It was this really awesome, cool experience for everybody. And if you stay consistent to that, when it comes to being a promoter, at least, then the money will follow, right? And you could say that about anybody in any business, right? Just staying true to yourself, staying true to your beliefs of why you're doing the thing, as long as they're pure, right? Like the people that are just trying to be like, what idea can I come up with to make me a millionaire? Like, that's usually never going to fly, right? There's too much work involved in any business and any venture. Yeah. Unless you have the absolute passion to do it, it's never going to work.
That's so cool. I wish I was at that party. What was it?
Disco Sluts from Outer Space.
What were people even like wearing at this party? I'm trying to imagine what that would even look like.
Maddie Boy and I had a friend, shout out to Kyle, who was a fighter pilot. And so he let us stupidly borrow 2 actual of his flight suits. His actual fighter, he was an F-14 pilot, and his actual helmet. Yeah. And so we dressed up in these outfits, and we never took our visors up the whole night. We couldn't see anything, but we looked super cool.
Could you even drink anything? I guess underneath the helmet. Yeah,
it's like the visor only goes to like right there. But we've done other parties where we were like dressed as furries, and we had to like drink through crazy long straws. And, we were always doing, again, like, let's just try to have fun, and
that's awesome.
I mean, if you're doing parties, like, at some point 4 nights a week, like, you have to figure out ways to entertain yourself too, right? Like,
You should bring it back. You should bring like the top, like your top theme, the themes that you did back then. Like, what's another one that was like a
memorable
hit?
I mean, the White Party at Skyline is probably like the most famous theme party we've ever done, which has since been replicated a million times here. Yeah. And we were even doing these before Puff Daddy was doing his White Parties. Okay. This is like 2005-ish, whatever. And we did like a 5-year run at Skyline at the Honolulu Room where we did the annual White Party, and you had to be in all white to get in, like literally all white. Like your khaki pants aren't cutting it, dude. Like your black shoes, even though you're wearing all white otherwise. Sorry. Yeah.
Wow. That'll be fun though
that would not be fun for me. I will give you guys the idea. Let the younger kids throw the parties.
Yeah,
I'll come early and leave early.
That's so much work, right?
Well, nowadays I don't want to be up till if a party goes till 2, I'm not getting out of the event till 4.
Yeah, right.
And then you have to go home and wind down and whatever. So it's 6 a.m. before you're asleep on a party that ended 4 hours ago. Like, that's no fun. And the Wave was open till 4. So I was seeing sunlight all the time. Yeah. It's just, it's a young man's game to do that and to do it well. Again, like now, if I was going to do it, I would be coming from the place of exactly what I don't want to, right? Of like,
so what you want to do, right? Yeah.
How much money are we going to make? And is this going to be worth my time? What's the ROI? I'd rather much be in bed by 10 than wake up with a hangover, but be, $1,000 richer or whatever. That's just not of interest to me.
You can do a 6 to 10 party. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Cater to that.
Hey, Pauhana parties all day. I'll do Pauhana parties all day long. Absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to go to someone else's party, but I don't want to. I don't want to do that myself. I don't want to have to.
You already did it. You did it.
What an epic era, though.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like,
I wish I was old enough to party back then now.
The rest of us have just like the regular, like, era of partying, but you threw these parties and you created these.
Yeah, but
curated
I
these
mean, to be
experiences.
clear, I mean, it wasn't just Maddie and I. I mean, I mean, this was the golden age of promoters in Hawaii, where G-Spot was doing his thing, you know, and the Race Sauce Boys, and like I said, Element Group, and oh my God,
And what's crazy,
Kaizo, and there was so many people, and everyone was killing it because the club scene was so different, and everybody had a night, and you could go out 7 nights a week, and there would be somewhere that was insanely packed, raging 7 nights a week. And like I said, everybody had their time and their day of the week or days of the week or whatever, but there was room for everybody and everyone was making money.
Yeah.
That's true. It's not like that anymore, right?
And it was super,
I'm still out of it,
super
but
fun.
Yeah.
You know, and there was so many fantastic local DJs crushing it. And it was just for the club scene in particular, it was a much more vibrant scene than it is today.
You kind of brought it up a little bit, but like, you know, you're saying like back in the day when you were doing it, there was like no social media and anything like that. So how has it been like through the years, like for you, like seeing the industry evolve and like adapt?
Well, I mean, we remember when MySpace came out and like every promoter was like, I mean, everyone instantly was like, oh, okay, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Right? So we were all jumping on that MySpace train. And, you know, right around the same time as when Facebook, you know, became public and you didn't have to be a college student at whatever school to get invited and all that anymore. So between Facebook and MySpace in the early 2010s coming up, that was a huge game changer overnight. And then you started to see this sort of second crop of promoters come up because then the grind doesn't have to be as hard.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, oh, I can just post this thing on my MySpace page and send it out to, you know, all my friends versus that's way easier than like, let's go flyer the KCC parking lot for the third time this week. Right? And so as like any other business, like things evolve, things change. You need to like, you know, adapt or sink or swim. Right. And pretty much everybody adapted because everybody understood it and understood what that could do and what that could mean. Even text messages on your phone. I remember I want to say that I think I was the first one to start text messaging people to invite people to parties on their phone, like mass text.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had gotten a text from a buddy in LA about a party. I can't even remember when this was like shortly after text messages came out. But it's like when any new technology comes out, there's always someone who's going to be like, aha. And then everyone else follows suit.
Yeah. Especially in Hawaii, right? There's like a lag from like the main.
Right. And pre-internet, pre-social media, it's a lot easier to take advantage of that if you're paying attention to what's going on the mainland, right? And then transfer it over to here. And that's something that Matty Boy and I were really good at. You know, people like, you know, Blaze that were paying attention to the DJ scene and culture on the mainland and then bringing out DJs a little bit ahead of time here. Whereas now it's a much more level playing field. And it's probably like that for any business anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Now, for better and for worse. Yeah. You know?
How did social media change the like club scene specifically? Did you see like a difference in
that's
like
a whole podcast on it. Yes. That, and I know you could speak to this at the district. Shout out to the district boys, by the way.
I've never been there.
Alex, Yosh, and the boys. So even pre having a camera on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Whether there was social media or not, but when you used to go out and you didn't have a way to record things and you had to be present in the moment and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And if we're all sitting together and we have no choice but to interact with each other, that's different than now we all have our phones and like maybe, you know, you're checking your Instagram, you're posting on TikTok, whatever, I'm texting somebody. So now we're all sitting together, but we're not present with each other. We're not actually communally enjoying this moment, right? And so I've seen over the years, and you notice it on dance floors, you notice it certainly like at bottle service tables, right? People are more interested in flexing than they are in actually just having fun.
Yeah.
And someone sent me a picture just the other day of a dance floor somewhere. I don't even think it was here, but they're like, look at everyone on the dance floor. There's no phones. Everyone is just dancing and having the time of their lives. And nowadays with social media, people are more interested in the perception of having fun, the perception
isn't that crazy?
cool,
it's so crazy.
the perception of really the perception of everything versus just doing and being the thing.
Just having fun.
Right. It's like, I feel like, are people even buying bottles anymore to drink it? Or are they just buying bottles for,
flex.
that's
The
like the
picture.
prop for the photo shoot, right?
Flex,
And certainly kids these days don't drink the way, the Gen X generation still drinks, by the way. So it's like, people aren't drinking as much. They're not present. If I want to go watch a Steve Aoki or a Four Color Zach, I don't want to watch it like this.
That's the whole concert.
Or like this.
Yeah.
That's stupid and lame. Like go home and watch a Four Color Zach video on YouTube.
Yeah.
But like when I'm watching, Compose do his thing, I want to watch him do his thing. Or even better yet, I want to be like dancing my face off, right?
Yeah.
Getting all hot and sweaty, and enjoying that in real time, in present. And with social media now, I think that's in part the death of nightclubs, and you've seen it. We can all count on one hand now the number of nightclubs in town, actually not even on all five fingers. Whereas even, 15 years ago, there was, clubs everywhere. And now everyone wants to open a bar or a restaurant now. Whereas, again, 15 years ago or whatever, everyone wanted to open a nightclub.
Yeah.
And it's just changed. And, the business model of a nightclub would never work the way it used to.
Yeah.
And that's a real shame. I've had people approach me about doing stuff like that. Within the last 10 years or so. And I'm just like, it's not going to work. No one wants to pay cover. Everyone thinks they're VIP and special, even though not everyone can be VIP and special, right?
That's why it is VIP.
Then you're all the same. You're all just average.
Then everybody's general again.
Right. So it's like nobody wants to pay
funny.
cover.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't want to buy bottles because
They don't want to stand in line.
They don't want to stand in line.
That sense of entitlement.
So there's a huge sense of entitlement, and I don't care how many Instagram followers you have, you're not getting a free bottle, right? Like the server can't work, pay her rent based on a picture
Followers.
with you. She needs to get tips. So it's just changed, and it's changed forever, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine for me because I'm not like doing that anymore.
Yeah.
No,
but
it's like,
that makes you feel sad in a way. Like, wow, that really
I never
was
thought of it like that
era.
until you put it into perspective.
Yeah, and it will never come back because people aren't going to check their phone in to go into the club.
No, but what's crazy is, so I don't know if you went to a Silk Sonic show, but Bruno and Anderson, they take your phones.
They check,
And like there, I was like, holy shit, this is so much fun. And like the whole thing was like, we want you to be present. And enjoy the moment. And it was so much fun.
Yeah. So comedians were the first ones in the concert world to pull the phones because they didn't want you posting their jokes on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. Because then it's like, well, then the ticket buyer in the next city doesn't need to spend
because they already heard
spend money to buy an actual ticket. I've already seen the funniest jokes from the YouTube clips or whatever. So they were the first to do it, and then bands hit to some degree. It's still in the early stages for bands, and bands to some degree are doing it for the same reason. If you have a show with crazy production, you don't want to like let the cat out of the bag. But I do think a secondary reason to do it is it just forces you to be present. And I think when you're going out, not just at nightclubs, but when you're going out anywhere with your friends, or you're trying to hook up or whatever it is you enjoy, I want to see this is my favorite band or whatever, you're gonna have a lot more fun in the long run if you actually just put your phone away. I always, it's like, hey, let's all snap a couple pictures and whatever, like get that out of the way, but then let's hang out and let's be together and have fun. And nightclubs were always way more fun when that's what it was about, right?
It's that interaction and actually having fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a new promotion company where we do the servicing to collect phones at the door. No, because I saw it on social media too, where like a wedding did it, and like that, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. They collected all of their guests' phones, and everyone was just super present. I see that more and more,
yeah. Because then you'll say like, this is an unplugged whatever. People are still up there with their phones, and I'm like, okay.
You're itching, right? Have you guys heard of? There's a name for it. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it. But like when you go to dinner, like everyone's supposed to put their phones in a pile, and the first person to reach for their phone has to pay the bill.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. It's just like so addicting. There's something about like scrolling and that.
Well, you're the one always posting all the cool videos. It's your fault.
No, but we say like, okay, it's for work. But then
we
we're just talking about that too, about how like we kind of hide behind that, And it's like,
I think doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
At least of a certain generation, right?
Yeah.
Of like you hide behind that. Again, like I'll look like I'm cool. I'll look like I'm having fun instead of actually just being cool and having fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. I know we had one of our friends, we were just interviewing him, but he says he does not have any social media, never ever wanted it, he's not on anything.
I gotta meet this guy. Is he 100 years old? Like, what's his deal?
No, he's like our age.
He said he has a LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, that counts.
Technically, it does count. Yeah.
Like, where are these reels gonna live? Not on your Instagram.
Yeah, but then he's like, I wish I had the time for it, but I just never cared for it, and I was like, oh man, that's like such a different perspective of it too. So,
but I think it's hard to give it up once you're in it, and then you're like under the spell of it, and then it's like, I honestly, it's unconscious, like grabbing my phone and like looking on Instagram. I'm just like,
yeah.
And then if I don't do it, and then I'm like, I wonder what she's up to. I won't even
feel so
call.
disconnected.
Like, I wonder how Andrew's doing. Like, just look at your Instagram.
But you know what? Like the president of CPB, they're not on their Instagram all day long,
Exactly.
right? Like the people in real positions of power are too busy doing the stuff to be like posting about whatever, like what they had for breakfast.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyone I know that's like at a really, truly, highly successful level of whatever industry they're in, they don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
They absolutely do not.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah. So then you eventually became marketing director at BAMP.
iHeart Radio.
Oh, BAMP.
Well, that too.
Yeah, iHeart Radio.
Yeah. I was actually BAMP's first employee.
Oh,
so Maddie Boy and I had the restaurant Apartment3 at the time, and we knew that it was coming. So we had been sort of planning for it, and I had been kept my career plate clean because I knew, hey, within the next year, it's definitely coming up. We knew that the Republic was going to be opening. Once the Republic opened, that was sort of the door that needed to open to allow BAMP to hire me as a full-time employee. And then I did the marketing and promotions for both. And that was in 2012, I think.
What's like a memorable
Republic.
show or like milestone in your career with BAMP?
I mean, the Empire of the Sun shows at the Republic. I think most probably anyone that's been to a lot of shows at the Republic would say that was like the most production, right? Like we had to completely tear the stage and the lighting rig completely apart and reconstruct it from scratch because of their production needs were just so insane. I mean, people were dressing up. It was just this crazy cool, like no one had ever seen that space like that before or since. And at the time for us at the Republic, I mean, that was the most technically advanced show that we had ever done. And we weren't even sure that we could pull it off.
Yeah, you guys did it.
Shout out to Cooper for that and Pudge. I look at that as like a strictly like a professional, like understanding the logistics involved in this, and then to be able to pull it off and have it be, 2 sold out shows and people dressing up and all this stuff. But other than that, then it's just going to be like shows that personally I was like, oh my God, like I got to meet Bill Burr when he was only selling out a 500 seat venue, and now like he's massive.
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys had so many artists where it was like before they blew up,
Yeah. I mean, we had, I think we did Migos for 700 people, Travis Scott for like 700 people.
Wow.
Like Billie Eilish. Like
so
Toast,
Billie Eilish like sold out in minutes even then. But we were all like, who is this 16-year-old? And how come they're not approving like any money to spend on marketing because her team knew that the show was going to sell out? We're like, who the hell is this person?
No marketing.
Yeah. I remember when we had Donald Glover.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this guy really looks like, I'm like, I don't understand. Is this a comedy show? What do you mean it's going to be a concert? And is this a different person? Is there Donald Glover the comedian and Donald Glover the rapper? And like, I'm just like, I'm so confused. So there was a lot of stuff like that, and then you get into personal moments like, doing a show with Paul Oakenfold as an old, 90s club kid was like, oh my God, so cool.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to have their personal, favorites, for sure. But I mean, the Republic just does, it continues now to this day. I mean, it's over 100 shows a year. So there's going to be tons of memories.
We were just talking
tons
to
of stuff.
Uncle Kelly Boy about how like music, or like it's like like concerts, and that time it's like a soundtrack to your life, right? It's like what was happening in that
It
moment.
truly is,
It
yeah.
like
It's
takes you straight back to a time.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's why there's such a huge nostalgia right now for 90s and early 2000s stuff,
Yeah.
because the younger generation, that's what they associate with their small kid time, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
Yeah.
you're seeing that affinity and affection for that 90s and 2000s stuff, where it's like why emo night is smashing and like those early Taylor
Yeah.
Swift parties.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny though because it's like a cyclical thing because it's like
Even
I'm
fashion,
playing
music, yeah.
I'm
It's
playing
everything.
Capenna and now my daughters who are 9 and 11 are hearing it and that
Right.
becomes their childhood soundtrack too, which was my childhood soundtrack.
Right.
So it's funny how it comes around like that.
It's typically a 20-year cycle, right? So that's why like the 80s
Mm-hmm.
were big for a decade, but now like we're into the 90s being big, and it's about to transition over to the 2000s because it's
That's
a 20-year
nuts.
thing. It's
Yeah.
as the kids get to an old enough
So
age
crazy.
to have the buying power.
yeah.
They
Yes.
they want that nostalgia.
They want to relive their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're bringing back disco sluts from outer space.
Absolutely. Maddie and I will be there as customers.
guests.
Let you guys throw the party.
We'll see the
by
2
way,
flight suits.
I still have Kyle's fighter helmet.
Damn, you never give it
Wow,
back?
you
my
never
office.
needed it,
No,
huh?
it's still in my office.
You guys are like the original Daft Punk then, like never taking off the helmet and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Right. Okay, so then you eventually transitioned over to iHeartRadio after.
Yeah, after BAMP, I started my own marketing firm with Sydney Chu called Mod Media Hawaii now for short. And we just do marketing and promotions for, whoever needs it. So, and her background is very similar to mine. She was the marketing director of Ocean Club and Pearl and, then the Hard Rock Cafe for a long time. And so I worked with her at venues as a outside promoter, and we worked together very well. So we decided to, keep working together regardless of whatever else we had going on. But then also, after BAMP, I'm now the director of marketing and promotions for iHeartRadio Hawaii. So that's my current job.
Nice.
Cool.
So I still get to work with Matty Boy and BAMP and
Yeah.
all the promoters and stuff. I'm just on a little bit of the other side of it.
Yeah.
Which I think has been good for me to help with relationships with certain promoters and stuff, because I understand exactly where they're coming from and why they do.
Like I was there, bro.
why they do
done
or don't
that.
do certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never say that. But yeah.
Oh, that's fun. So do you still get to like the nightlife and all that? Are you just like done?
I love a good Pauhana cocktail.
Yes.
So I mean, I'll go to Pint and Jigger all day long, or whatever bar is, but I'm not super interested in going to nightclubs anymore. I know Four Color Zach is playing the District soon.
Yeah.
Maybe he will have already
10-year
played
anniversary
by the time this airs. But like something like that would
Yeah.
get me out of the house. But it has to be something special.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like again, I'm happy to drink. I've just shifted the time of when I'm going to go out and party. And by the way, so have all my friends, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
None of my friends are like,
That's the other thing. It's like you go to these things like, whoa, all of these kids, these are kids. Like, I do not belong in here.
My girlfriend was at something at Straits the other day, and was like, we were definitely the oldest people in there. Like,
You never want to be the oldest person in the room.
well, if I go
we can have
anywhere
the most
now,
fun, though.
if I go to any nightclub now, I will definitely be the oldest person there. But I will definitely be drinking everyone under the table.
Yeah. Uncle Flash.
Except for Evan.
Kidding. Hey, I don't know.
Uncle Flash.
Oh boy. Okay.
We'd had
Pal
some good
friends,
times.
Andrew.
I'm just joking. I'm sorry. We had some good times.
Yeah, but even that, like when we met, that I was already like,
Yeah, you're already like
Matty
a
Boy
working
and I were out of
professional.
like the
I'm
club
just
thing
kidding.
already, and it was just a little bit different, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that was even a while ago at this point, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if I'm happy to support the club scene and everyone else's parties.
If you were to go back and do it again, like, is there anything you would change? Or like, knowing the things that you know now?
I think the only thing I would have changed is I spent a lot of dumb money on a lot of dumb stuff, as did every promoter back in those days, because you're getting cash every week.
Yep.
And it's not like, on some level, it's not going to last forever, but it's definitely going to last, for the next few years. So you're spending it as quick as you're making it. And we all did that to varying degrees.
Yeah. That's
and
hard when you're like in your early 20s and like everybody,
I mean,
no
it went
matter
into
what
my
industry.
30s, but yeah, I know, well into my 30s, but yeah.
And then you were like the ones throwing the party, you know? So it's like, it's different. It's different.
Yeah. And, you know, you've got unlimited comp tabs everywhere. And it's just like, I mean, you know, it's a perfect storm to be irresponsible. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Being in the club scene, you must have seen some like really crazy stuff. What's like one thing that like comes to mind when you think of like just crazy things you've seen?
Who watches this? I'm being serious. Like all the best stuff is like, man, I don't know if I can tell that, right? Because, there's a lot of stories that involve people that you don't want to out.
Yeah.
We
don't have to name
for
names.
One reason or another. I don't know about that legally about certain things past the point of one thing. I mean, and by the way, the absolute best stuff happened when I was blackout drunk, so who knows? Right? But one thing I remember that was super funny is one time I was at the Wave. The Wave had an upstairs, downstairs, and the upstairs was much quieter. And Damon Wayans had done a comedy show earlier that night. And he was sitting up at the upstairs bar by himself. And when celebrities came into the Wave, they almost always gravitated upstairs because you could be in the mix, but definitely be hidden and in the corner and no one could see you. This was early days of cell phones. And I heard him talking to his side piece on his phone. And then I heard him be like, oh, crap. He didn't say crap. And then he hangs up and then he takes another call that's his wife. And then he has to go outside and talk to his wife. And then he has to come back inside. But I heard enough of both conversations to be like, oh my God.
Oh, I thought you were about to say like she showed up there or something.
No, I mean, I've seen stuff like that happen. Certainly at the Wave, again, it was the Studio 54 of Hawaii. Like
the Wave was in Waikiki?
Yeah, you saw it's the Allure apartment building.
Oh,
now.
okay, nice.
So you saw everything at the Wave.
Yeah.
And you usually saw it all on the same night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you would see like the CEO of a company next to a pimp, next to a drug dealer, next to some, crazy celebrity or whatever. I met Lars, the drummer for Metallica there. He showed up to the official after party, which never happened.
Just randomly?
I mean, not randomly. It was his official after party.
But they usually never go. Yeah.
They were still like Metallica.
Yeah.
It was just, again, hiding in the upstairs and super cool and chill. But like you just always, that place just had just crazy stuff happen all the time, which is part of what made it so successful.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people spending dumb money. You definitely see
yeah.
hey, you were here last night with your girlfriend and now you're here
Different
tonight
girl.
with your whoever. It's like you see a lot. I mean, when you're the promoter and you're like pretty sober when everyone else is hammered, you definitely see a lot of interesting things for sure.
Let's talk about it when we stop rolling.
Off the record.
Yeah.
So what? So you're at iHeart Media now. How long has that been?
5 years.
Okay, and then you have your own marketing and promotion company as well. So you're still heavily involved in like marketing and promotions and all that, just like a different. I mean,
that's my full-time job with iHeart. We've got 9 stations in our cluster here in Honolulu, and most of them are number 1 or number 2 in their format, and there's a lot going on, and there's that's like having 9 different companies, right? That you're. Each has its own unique brand and voice and
audience,
all the things. Yeah. And like, I don't even, my phone doesn't even allow me to have access to all the social media accounts I need. Right. Because it's like all these, it maxes you out on certain things. And so, there's a lot going on. Yeah. With that.
What are some things that you do to kind of like find that balance in your life?
I mean, balance is a hard one. And I think in Hawaii in particular, I know, work-life balance is a big thing more so lately. Now, and certainly with a younger generation, they want work-life balance. But the reality is living in Hawaii, that's pretty hard unless you just want to be poor forever and rent
or
forever.
not live in Hawaii.
Yeah, or you're cool to live with your parents and or your grandparents, which I know a lot of people in Hawaii do.
Yep.
So I mean, in Hawaii, you really have to grind it out, and it's like if you need to bust your ass and work multiple jobs or have however many side hustles to get ahead, where's the work-life balance in that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you can have work-life balance, or, you can own your own car or whatever, but you can't have both. So I can't speak to other places, but Hawaii is just so insanely expensive to live here. And, inflation these last few years has just been through the roof, that I don't know how, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's harder than ever, again, specifically in Hawaii, to have a work-life balance if you want certain things. And a lot of these things aren't insane. It's like wanting to own your own home and, again, not live with your grandparents or, whatever, having, full medical coverage, just basic stuff that everybody should have access to. It's tough to do if you're also trying to be like, I'm not going to work more than 40 hours a week, or, I'm only on the clock Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Like, it's not going to work. It's just, and especially like, also, do you want to get ahead? Do you want that promotion? Do you want that raise? Do you want to go from working from someone else to owning your own company? All these things require more of the work side, and the only thing to give is your free time.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the honesty in that, because it's true. Everybody makes their own personal choices to like how much they want to work, but how much they need to sacrifice if they want certain things. And it's not maybe such an easy question. It's like, well, you really gotta like be introspective and think about like how much time you're willing to put into your job, or like how much you're willing to give up, and how much you need this, like
what you really want, and then how do you get there, right?
But getting back to social media and how this plays into it is, people don't want to sacrifice because they want to post every week that look at how great my life is, right? They're constantly wanting to post the flex, as opposed to be like, here I am eating ramen noodles for the like 12th night in a row, right? That's not cool for my, my Instagram or whatever. So a lot of people, I think, struggle with that side of it too.
Totally.
Not my generation, but maybe your generation. I see where it's like they don't want to sacrifice. It's like you don't want to give anything up, but you still want all the stuff, which is admirable but unrealistic.
Right.
So
I love that answer, because like Kolby was saying, it's like the honesty in that, it's like, I mean, it is a tough question, that work-life balance, and sometimes you just got to face it.
And by the way, I'm saying this is a single man. Like, I look at my friends that have kids, school in Hawaii isn't cheap.
No.
College is not cheap. Those little fuckers eat nonstop, right? Like,
you got to tend to them all the time. Time, money, energy.
Oh my gosh. And like, even fruit is expensive. It's like, okay, well.
So it's like, where do you find the time to have work-life balance, but also take care of the needs of your kids and give them the better future than what you had, and find time for yourself? And, God forbid you have a spouse, like there's only so many hours in the day, and something's got to give. I'm going to tell you, like the Beyoncés and Taylor Swifts of the world, zero work-life balance. If you want to get to that level, they're grinding all the time.
Yeah, it's the truth. I like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I know it can get into your head though, for sure. Like if you're on social media, even like I look at my own
Are you
peers.
Speaking for yourself?
No, I'm speaking for myself.
And
I like look at my life and I'm like, I am so grateful. Like my husband and I work our asses off and to be able to have a home and like live in Hawaii and stuff. But it still does get into my head. Like when I see like my friends going on trips to all these beautiful places, or even like the back, like they're taking a shot of their kids and like their kitchen looks like immaculate and beautiful. And I'm like, fuck, it's like, it really can do a number to your like mental health.
Well, that's the like keeping up with the Joneses thing. It's like, well, everyone else is doing this or posting that, like, am I less than because I'm not? Or
even though it's not real, like that there are tons of people who are like don't live that life, even just like in your peer
we talk
group.
about it all the time, but it's just like you still fall into it, right?
Everybody knows, because everyone is one of these people where it's like, you know, what you're posting isn't necessarily a true reflection of who you are or what you're doing or what your status is. And yet you do it yourself knowing that. But when you look at other people, a lot of people have a hard time making that differentiation.
That's so true.
Going, I know that this other person is the same as me, but yet how come you can't see that, right? And you get caught up in that envy or jealousy or super unhealthy stuff. I mean, social media in general is definitely there needs to be some sort of
for sure.
sort of guardrails there, right? And you're starting to see the fallout of that with mental health, and it's really a shame. But it's so funny that all of us know, like, we're all the directors of our own stories on social media, but we somehow can't understand that other people are doing the same thing, right? Like
it's a mental block right there. Yeah,
it's just so bizarre to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
so I do like I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but like talking about like the comparison thing, like I got like sucked into this show, Couples Therapy. Have you watched that? It like follows the
Is it
journey.
fiction or reality?
No, real life. It's reality, and so it follows the journey of. I mean, I think they're pretty authentic reality. It follows a journey of like a couples therapist.
Okay.
And then so you get a peek into like they kind of bounce between like 4 different couples and like the issues and challenges that they have, and they're in their homes.
Do you watch
and,
this
like,
solo or with your husband?
By myself, hoping that he's gonna watch it, but he's
you don't think it would be more awkward
not.
to watch it with him?
Because I'm just like
too close to
like,
home.
like just kind of look over.
Like, are you listening? Put your phone down. No, but it's so interesting to get like a real life peek into like challenges that other people have, and then it makes you feel like less. Okay, it's not just us, or it's not just me, you know? So
but we all know that. But we
yeah.
somehow have a hard time like really understanding and grasping that at its truest level, right? Like it's like we're hearing it, but we're not listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope there's a shift coming.
I think there is.
Yeah.
We talk about it in another episode too, where like people are starting to be like try to be more authentic on social media and everything, right? And people are wanting that actually, like the rawness and like the authenticity.
I mean, that's why podcasts have become so successful. I think these long form interviews where you're not getting like a snippet or a soundbite of somebody or of a conversation. It's like we can really dive into a topic or a person.
That's
or
so funny because
whatever the case may be. I mean, that's why Joe Rogan has become so successful.
Yeah.
Who would say, hey, let's do 3-hour podcasts like several times a week, and it's going to be the most insanely successful like podcast ever, you know, worth $100 million plus. Like on paper, that doesn't even make sense, but that just tells you how much people want realness, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The long form stuff is definitely coming back after like a decade of like short form
going
content
shorter
hitting.
and shorter and shorter. Yeah. Even like with filmmaking and stuff, it's like we were getting it shorter and shorter and shorter, and then we got to like we can't go shorter than this and tell a story.
So
and
at what episode is this of the podcast?
81.
81. So when you started, were the episodes shorter, or have the lengths sort of stayed consistent?
I think it was always kind of about an hour-ish, but then I think in the beginning we were afraid to like get real vulnerable or to like really get into things.
Like
you know, I think
dive into like, you know.
Yeah, we would just be like a little bit more surface level, like small talk kind of thing. But then I think the most powerful ones or the most listened to ones are the ones that like tell me the truth, like you know, like
Cry
what do you really
right
think?
Or like, you know, like the conversation would take a turn and be like, whoa, we were not expecting that.
Right.
Yeah,
And like, you know,
that's how real life is, right?
Exactly.
Right. And you're not going to get that in a 5-minute interview.
Exactly.
Right. Like, tell me about whatever it is you're promoting, and like, what's the new song you've got coming out?
It's like breaking that script, you know, breaking the script, trying to figure out like, okay, like who are you really? You know, like tell us about yourself.
Yeah, people want to know that. Like people want to know, like we hear Flash on the radio, we see him around, but it's like
we hear all the wins, but like
really,
what did you have to go through? You know?
Yeah.
My girlfriend, we have a conversation every day where, and I'm terrible because I usually almost never ask her this, but she does something really great with me every day, and she asks me like, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And Krista, Super CW, used to do that as well, but she did it for herself. And so like Krista would at the end of every day would say, what are like the 3 things I'm thankful for today? She also did that when she woke up. Of what am I thankful for today? So then it's just like, we had conversations about it, and Krista would say, when I go to bed at night and I put my head on my pillow, I only want to think positive thoughts, right? I only want to think about the good.
Yeah.
And that sort of frame of reference, like, you know, when my girlfriend asked me, you know, what was the best thing about your day today? Because my whole day could be total shit.
Yeah.
And when she asked me that, it forces you to be like, man, what was the good thing or great thing that happened? Obviously, you know, there's varying degrees of what the greatest thing that happened to you in any given day was, but it is really good. And we have these conversations like usually at the end of the day after work. So it does like sort of force you to get out of your own head of, you know, if you're dwelling on like not great stuff.
Totally. Gratitude.
Yeah.
The power of being grateful.
Maybe I had 99 out of 100 things, you know, that were dog shit, but she's forcing me to think about the one good thing, which I just think is really good and smart. And I don't know why she does it, but I know for me, that's what I get out of it.
Yeah.
And it does make me think about that for myself now. And even for other people, like, you know, maybe at the end of the day today, I'm going to sit back and think, I'm like, I wonder what was the best part of Andrew and Kolby's day today, you know? And then when you start thinking about that, about other people too, I think it creates more empathy as well. Yes. But, you know, a lot of it is just a frame of reference, right? Glass half full versus glass half empty. For whatever reason, human nature, it's so much easier to dwell on the crap, right? I mean, you could have 99 things out of 100 go right, but at the end of the day, a lot of people, and I'm one of those people, I will just sit and only think about what went wrong.
Totally. And that affects everybody around you too. It's like if you dwell in like, or have this like state of negativity, you see how you walk into a room and you can like just feel that energy all of a sudden.
Right.
But then if you are like in a state of like gratitude, which is like Kelly Boy, you know, he's just like totally
that guy's always
gratitude.
happy. I've never seen him not smiling and big hugs and like all the things and like
and that's infectious too. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm happy too now, or even if you weren't before. It's like it is all of that stuff infects the people around you.
And just the power of positive. It sounds so cheesy, right, when you say it out loud, but it is true. The power of positive thinking. I saw that firsthand with Krista for a really long time. And in general, I'm a pretty positive person too, but it's so weird how your brain, it is human nature to think about, I will always like throwing parties, you know, maybe we made a ton of money and the party was amazing and this, that, and the other. And like, I would just be thinking about, man, but that like, you know, the cryo gun didn't work and that just really sucks. And it would have been so much better if, you know, that would have worked when I hit that button. And then it's just like, that's all I'm thinking about. But it's like, you're not even thinking of the big picture, right? You just get so sucked up in the minutia of the negative stuff instead of appreciating the wins.
Well, you can also reframe that into like you have a standard of excellence and you just like you see a problem or you see something that didn't go quite right. And then you're like, okay, let's elevate that or change that into something that can be better next time.
Yes. And every successful person that I know does that, myself included. And that's how, you know, Jack Law, again, my mentor at the Wave and Hulas, did that. But that's a fine line and it can be a double-edged sword because like how you put it, it's like so positive, right? And it's like rainbows and unicorns and whatever. But how most people do it is like that one fucking thing, man. Like, oh, and then it's like you're either going to beat yourself up or you're going to beat up like, man, Evan forgot to take the lens cap off again. And then you're all pissed off at Evan instead of like thinking about it in a more healthy way. And the most highly successful people I know are all perfectionists. But the problem with being a perfectionist, and again, I include myself in this, is nothing is ever perfect. Right. So how do you navigate, just going through life when things are never perfect. And if they are, it's only for like a fleeting second. And then you're just going to constantly be let down or disappointed or whatever the case may be.
I like kind of laugh because even this like newer generation coming up, they have this like reputation of being soft. So it's like you really need to like make them feel seen.
They are soft.
Yeah. It's not a reputation.
Seen.
Can you say please? Can you say thank you? Just do the fucking job, motherfucker. Your thank you is your paycheck.
Yes. So many people need to hear that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I forget where I heard this, but then they're like, okay, I'll say like 3 positive things that they did right, and then come in with like the negative thing or like the thing that they would like them to change. I'm like, it's so funny that we've come to that because it's like
it wasn't like that before.
No, not when
like,
when I was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I see your kids running around town holding video cameras at every event I MC ever now. And these are obviously young kids. I mean, you have to navigate that, right? Like, how do you?
Oh man,
because
that's a whole other podcast.
Like in video, it's very clear, right? Like the picture's out of focus. Like the lighting was terrible. Like I would think that there's some
really
very clear mistakes.
Yeah,
you can't get around. So how do you deal with that?
See, I'm trying to work on that too. So it's like, when I leave notes on something, right? So they send the video and I leave a note and I'm like, hey, like this and that. But it's like, how can we fix it? Like, is there like a resource or something we're missing that like I could buy or, fix or change or, just trying to figure out how to solve it, right? Like, it's like, okay, this shot looked bad. Was it the lighting? Like, do we need another light? Like, do we need...
just not like coming down on them like
Yeah,
as an individual,
though,
but
so
like as a team, like,
yeah,
okay.
how can we improve,
Yeah.
right? So I got better at that because I kind of realized like, when people would say that stuff to me, I didn't like that either, right? So coming from that creative side too, like I didn't like when a note was written like this from a client. So it's like, if I were to leave a note now, like how can I like empower the change too?
Yeah.
Right? It's not just like, fuck, the shot was shitty, like how could like never do this again.
But don't you find, because I mean, you guys are obviously busier than ever and have just a ton of stuff going on. There has to be a shorthand, right? So if I have to spend, 5 minutes navigating a conversation that could have taken 30 seconds, that's 4.5 minutes that it was a waste of my time and yours to get to the point.
Yeah.
Like, and when you're crazy busy like that actually matters because it all adds up, right?
Yeah.
Shot after shot, scene after scene, project after project, client after client. So don't you have to figure out some sort of like,
So
like to me, it is easier to just be straightforward and be like, dude.
There are certain things where
chop.
Like if it happens like multiple times, then it's like, okay, like there's obviously something. Is it me? Is it like what's going on here? Like, do we need to make a better shot list or like what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like there's like ways.
Yeah, it can be like overall, like this is great. Love it. I like how you did this, but like this one area.
Do you read my comments? Because that's literally what I say. Overall, great job. Here are my notes.
Like how like Hollywood studios give like directors notes on their movie, right? You have to be very like.
Yeah.
Stroke the ego a little bit.
Everything was really good.
Or else they're gonna just like walk.
Yeah.
I can't take this anymore.
But
this is abuse.
At this point in your guys' careers, being on the receiving end of that, would you think it's better to have that shorthand of like, hey, like this sucked, fix this because of whatever? Or do you guys also receiving it still have it to be sort of dressed up a little bit?
I almost feel like it's my responsibility to help solve the problem, right?
Well, and also
it is.
like
That's
to
what a good boss does.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
it is your responsibility.
Even before that, though, like creating the system of expectations, like, okay, this is kind of setting them up for success. So this is what we expect, and like little things that can be like things that we might come across all the time. Like, let's like do this, let's do that. So they're not just like putting themselves out there to be like torn down, but like they know what the expectation is, and then if they don't meet the expectation,
then it's like we almost have like a grounds to like, hey, like you did not hit these expectations. Like let's do better. Don't be sorry, be better.
I really I can't wait for all of your employees to watch this. And then
I'm cutting all this out.
And then they can slide into my DMs with their true feelings, because I know whatever they comment on publicly is just going to be BS.
They're gonna screenshot all of my video comments and upload it. They're not gonna take my overall great job seriously anymore. Not gonna think of something else. Freaking Kolby exposed all of us.
Well, Thank you for making time to come on here. I know you're juggling a lot and you have a lot going on. So it was really nice to be able to just like sit and talk story with you.
Well,
Get to know you a little better.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was great to talk.
I can't wait to watch this and see what a real podcast looks like.
No.
Well, you've had your own podcast and things like that.
Maleko and I actually started podcasting back in 2007.
Yep.
We had probably the first podcast in Hawaii. And this was when you needed to have, I think it was Apple, iTunes. Like we did a podcast for 2 years and I never understood where to get it, how to tell.
Never heard an episode.
You need iTunes, and this was like before phone apps, and like you didn't, like, what's a podcast? That was like, it's like this whole long thing. But we did that from, we started in 2007. And at one point, we were in the top 100 of Apple comedy podcasts.
Wow.
And we never should have stopped. But back then, we were like, there's 100 podcasts in the world, and we're like number 99. So it's like, great. Yay us.
Yeah. You can still say you're in top 100,
right.
though.
And now it's just completely changed. But, Maleko and I have had a podcast off and on for a very, very long time. It's crazy to see how far podcasts have come and how now it's so weird because podcast, its very basis is audio only, but now it's like it's all about video, and it's all about, unfortunately, podcast long form interviews. But how podcasts get popular now is a clip of a podcast, so it's like come full circle.
That's what I was laughing when you said like the podcast long form is so popular, but I'm like, but then it's actually the little clips that come from it.
I know, and it didn't used to be that way until the last, especially post COVID, but when podcasts were truly just audio only, it wasn't like a clip thing, right?
Yeah,
you had to watch. You had to watch the whole thing, and now people are consuming even like a Rogan or something. It's like, I'll just watch this 10-minute thing about the guy talking about the one topic that I wanted him to listen about, instead of hearing a long form conversation and hearing about things that you wouldn't expect, the three of us to talk about. So it's really sort of strange how it's come full circle. And I also think it's strange how people are like, no, I like to watch my podcast on my TV. I'm like. Podcasts are meant to be consumed in the car, like when you're running or whatever, like with your AirPods on, like not when you're like sitting, like watching TV is for watching TV. But a lot of people, that's how they like it now. And I don't know for you guys, like what are the numbers? Are more people listening or are more people watching?
Well, ours are only like audio and video together. So we
couldn't. You don't even have an audio only?
No, because even like Spotify has video now.
See?
So,
that's crazy. Yeah.
So if I want to listen to this on like one of my podcast apps, by the way, I get no money from them, but the Overcast podcast app is excellent. That's the one I found to be the best.
Ooh, nice.
But like if I'm going to listen on
like
my podcast
Spotify
app, I can't listen. I have to. It's got to be.
You can listen. So if your phone allows for it, it'll show the video. You don't have to watch it, but you can listen. Yeah, which is crazy.
But if you're not uploading like an MP3 only or anything.
No, just MP4s. Yeah.
But
there's still some podcasts that like I listen to Armchair Expert, Jack Shepard, and that one's audio only. But then I'm always like, I want to see their expressions, like especially if they have like a really big guest on. Like I want to see them talking. I want to see what they look
interaction.
like.
Okay, but like if you're listening, like again in your car or you're running or working out or like
I do that all the time. I always like have it there, and it's in like a little box. I can see the video. And then I'm like back to the road.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely something to be said for watching the body language of people interacting as opposed to just the audio. It does add a huge other element to it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Another level of connection.
Yeah. People can like hear, like feel like they're there, like in audio world, but then when you see them sitting and like looking at each other, you can imagine yourself being in that circle.
Like for you guys, I mean, Redefined Media, you had to have. Like you got to do it with video from day one, right? Because you're, a video production company.
Yeah, I mean,
like
so
it would be weird not to.
Yeah. So we had all this stuff anyway, and so it was easier for us to enter.
We borrowed a thing in the beginning, and it was like, okay, let's do it. Like let's just try it out, feel it out, and then we finally got some sponsors. We were able to buy our own podcast equipment. So
shout out CPB.
Yeah, shout out to CPB.
I mean, that is the one thing is like all the equipment is, when we started doing podcasts a million years ago, I mean, we were lucky we had access to the iHeart Radio
Exactly.
studios,
Yeah.
but like it was like you couldn't even find gear, right?
Yeah.
Like just to find a mic that could plug into your phone was
Yeah.
like a battle.
Yeah.
And now it's just like
It's made for it, yeah.
It's all everything
have
is.
a whole
I mean,
kit.
roadcasters
Yeah,
are
yeah.
just insanely genius, right? For this type of stuff.
Genius.
Who was your first guest ever?
Jana Lam. Jana Lam, the designer, was our first, and then
How dare you not ask me first, Andrew?
I know we had to wait till 81.
Yeah. I know. I tried to ask him around like 60, but we ran out.
Yeah, what happened? We were gonna do it, and
I think
then
like timing or something. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got like
I
the
got bumped
first
for
round.
Kelly Boy. I would do that too.
I know the first round we had like Bretman on,
Yeah.
Tumua.
But then
we
I
had-
think like what she was saying earlier too was when we first started, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know
Yeah.
what we wanted to talk about. So we always talk about like, oh, I think we feel like we didn't do justice to those episodes. We should go back and revisit, you know.
Yeah.
So nice
when
now.
you first started, did you have like do some sort of like interview prep or like what do you guys do?
we don't usually send out interview like questions ahead of time.
No, but I mean, doing
Oh,
your
just-
own
oh,
research on a
oh, yeah.
person
Yeah.
or whatever. Like I know
Yeah.
for me, Andrew knows me, so it's like there's
Yeah,
not
so
really
we did like
anything
a
to do.
surface.
But
Yeah, I mean, we,
like
we
let's
did the
say you
research.
didn't know me at all, but I
Yeah.
was going to be on the show. Like, how does that work?
From filmmaking, we kind of knew how to interview people,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So that part was pretty easy. But then in the beginning too, and I think of all the 80 plus guests, most of them are
81.
like people that we
81.
know. So like we have already a connection with them.
Right.
So we're not having to get to know a stranger. And so most of the people that we've had on here are
Yep.
people that we know.
We're trying to get some big strangers.
Maybe Flash can help us with this.
Yeah.
Gotta,
Kobe has some.
gotta save them for my podcast.
I know. You send them over to us after then.
Yeah, we'll
Sloppy
take
seconds.
leftovers.
Sloppy Seconds would be the great name for a
the
podcast,
podcast.
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, so when you go in, like Andrew and I were talking, you were out of the room, but there was some stuff that Andrew wanted to get to specifically that wouldn't be the normal like stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have like, oh, you know, I don't know, we're interviewing whoever and everyone talks about this, but we definitely want to get to a point where we ask them about this random particular thing. Like, is there some sort of goal sometimes with certain guests coming in?
I think
Sometimes,
so. Yeah.
For the most part, it's like tell us your life journey. We start at like the beginning and to see where it goes, and it's very organic like that. We don't
Yeah.
typically have a plan,
I think-
and then
yeah.
we get to like usually they'll try to promote something. They'll want to promote something, which is why they're spending time. You know, usually they have something coming up.
I do
that we
have
can
one
talk
thing I
about.
wanted to ask you though. I just want you to tell us about the story about your tattoo,
Which one?
the electric palms one
The electric palms tattoo?
that everybody has. Yeah.
No, only two
No,
people
I mean, only
have
two
it.
people. Oh, yeah,
only
yeah,
two
yeah,
people
yeah,
have
yeah.
it. Yes. This is the craziest thing I ever did in my life when it comes to promotions was this 2 weeks that I did a Electric Palms, the very first Electric Palms Music Festival, spring break in Cabo. And I had been working at BAMP for less than 6 months. I had started in December, and in March, I was on a plane to Cabo. And so we did 17 shows over 2 weeks. We did a pool party every day. And then we did a club event every night. And we had like Porter Robinson, Zed,
Sheesh,
Laid
yeah.
Back Luke, Tommy Trash, like just the most insane lineup. In Cabo is still Mexico. And so there's like just
Cabo's-
weird
Yeah.
cartel stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even know how much I can say even now. But it was really weird and really scary. And like, you know, there was only, 4 or 5 of us
Yeah.
total were there
For that whole fest.
for the whole fest. We were the only ones, like and we're in a different country. We're doing 2 shows a day. And I mean, it was just like every obstacle you could throw at someone. I mean, at the end of it, I was like, everyone was like, I'm writing a book. We're making a movie, like all the things. And we were there for 2 weeks. So you become friends with like all the staff and they
Yeah.
start telling you more and more stuff. In the beginning, we were
They
definitely
slowly
like the
start letting you
outsider
in.
gringos.
Yeah.
But you start learning stuff. I mean, we did the best we could and the parties were amazing and every DJ was like insane. Laid Back Luke was probably my favorite and he was just unbelievable.
So from that
I'm trying to
experience-
figure out like
so-
how we're
so-
gonna
so-
get to that.
Well, I mean, it's nothing crazy. It's just when it was all said and done, we were just like, this is the most insane thing we've ever done. We were all going to get a tattoo to commemorate this. And
Okay.
We're like, let's just get the the Electric Palms logo. And Electric Palms is a very established brand now, but this was literally the first thing that we did as Electric Palms back then. So nobody knew what it was. And quite frankly, I think we just made that the name of the festival, not knowing it was going to be the name of the EDM division of BAMP at the time.
Nice.
And so we all agreed to get the tattoo. And then when it was all said and done, only me and Taylor ended up getting it.
Did you get it in Mexico? Or did you get it in Cabo?
No, we got it here. We got it in Kailua.
Okay.
No, I would not get a tattoo in Mexico. No, and we didn't have time. We were operating on like 4 hours. Talk about no like work-life balance. We were working like literally like 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like these pool parties would start at noon and then go till like 6, and then you'd have a club party go from like 9 to 2 or 9 to 4, and then you're doing close out of each and then set up for each, and you've got artist relations, and you're also like every spare second we're flyering on the beaches, and by the way, you can do whatever you want promo wise there. Like they don't care if you're like flying on a beach in Cabo. Like you can't fly a beach in Waikiki, right? So we were just working and hustling like every waking moment. We were just grinding, and it was just insane. I don't know legally what I can tell you, but I can tell you the cartels run everything. Let's put it that way.
Everybody knows that though.
Yeah. I mean, we were doing at the end of the night, we would be doing cashing out, like totaling up the cash at the end of the night with the cops, and the cops were matching like, okay, so you said you had like this many people paid cover, and it's like, okay, so then the wristbands should match that, right? And then so they would be like double checking all of our accounting to make sure that like we didn't give out any free wristbands or try to like pocket any of the money. Like they were trying to make sure that everything was reconciled so that like we weren't ripping them off. And mind you, the cartel was sending the cops in to count the money with us at the end of the night. It was just like the weirdest, craziest. And that's like the least of the crazy things that I could tell you about that went on then. And we had the Dim Mac boys out. We had a Dim Mac house.
Oh wow!
And it was all the Dim Mac crew staying in this house for a week. I only stayed there for like one night because I was like, I can't. That was like too weird and wild for me. And it was just we had the Dirty Bird crew out from the Bay, and it was just really, really insane. And it was just everybody running around with their hair on fire for 2 weeks straight.
Wow.
What a time of your life.
But to this day, far and away the best EDM lineup that BAMP has ever had. Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, and all those guys, pennies on the dollar. Zed's biggest, first big real hit happened about 6 months after that, right? So then even 6 months later, we couldn't even afford Zed the way we could back in, March of 2013, which you're putting in your offers, before that, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow. What a life. What a life you've lived.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yes, thank you so much. You can find Flash on the radio.
How can people find you?
I mean, we just sat and trashed social media for the last hour. So
well, this will be on YouTube and all the things.
Sure, all the things. I'm at Flashy808, and I'm sure you could see whatever I've got going on there mostly. Yeah.
All right.
What's your guys' Instagrams for all the kids out there? Your personal ones, right? Because this is being watched on the. Do you guys ever plug your own stuff?
No, we don't actually.
Andrew Tran underscore. Or is it
underscore Andrew Tran because the real Andrew Tran already has one. Frick, I guess.
Bastard.
He tried to charge me like $10K to get it. I was like, never.
Really?
It's not worth it. Yeah. I DM'd him. I was like, hey, it's a cool fight. Can I have your account? Like, how much would it be? He's like, oh, $10K. I was like,
is the account active?
Yeah.
10K.
10K.
Wow.
That's
he knows. That's why. I mean, there's so many Andrew Trans out there. But anyways, underscore Andrew Tran. And
at Kolby Moser.
And Kolby with a K or a C?
K. Kolby Moser. Yeah, and no underscore. There's only one Kolby Moser out there, I guess.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Everyone, don't forget to subscribe, share, like,
smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Comment what you think. And 100 likes and Disco Sluts from Outer Space will be back.
Oh,
just kidding.
Yes.
Thank you again.
So much.
Thank you.
Thanks
all right,
for
guys.
watching.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.